call the name.
Have you ever helped someone because you thought it was the right thing to do, only to have that kindness turn into a nightmare? It is a scary thought that the person you choose to help might be the very person who wants to hurt you. Christopher Jimmy was a man who believed in the goodness of people. He was a 42-year-old manager of a clearing and forwarding company in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. He was a hard-working man who loved his wife, Arit, and his 2 young daughters very much. On Sunday, May 23, 2021, Christopher woke up with a plan to visit his family in his hometown of Eketa in Akwa Ibom State. He was a kind man who always tried to do his best for everyone he met. He told his wife he would stop by the office first and then drive to see his sister, Auntie Mercy. Arit watched him drive away in his grey Toyota Matrix, never imagining that this would be the last time she would see her husband alive. Christopher's life was full of simple joys and hard work. He was known in his neighborhood as a man who would never say no to someone in need. His wife, Arit, was a trader, and they worked together to build a good life for their 8-year-old and 1-year-old daughters. That Sunday morning was supposed to be a time for rest and family connection. Christopher checked his car, made sure he had enough fuel, and started his journey. He was a careful driver who followed the rules of the road. As he drove toward the trailer park in One, he was thinking about the meal he would share with his sister later that day. He felt safe and happy because he was going home. He had lived a life of honesty, and he expected the same from others. This belief in the goodness of people was his best quality, but on this specific morning, it would lead him into a trap set by a man wearing a military desert camouflage uniform. When Christopher reached the One trailer park, he saw a man standing by the side of the road. This man was wearing a full military desert camouflage uniform and carrying an AK-47 rifle. To any normal person, this man looked like a hero who protected the country. His name tag clearly said Steven Eway. Steven looked like he needed a ride to the same state Christopher was heading to. Christopher thought to himself that it was a good idea to help a soldier who serves the nation. He pulled his grey Toyota Matrix to the side of the road and offered the soldier a lift. Steven Eway smiled and thanked him, climbing into the passenger seat. Christopher felt a sense of pride in helping a member of the army. He did not know that Steven was not a hero, but a man looking for someone to rob. By opening his car door, Christopher had unknowingly invited his own executioner to sit right next to him for the long drive ahead. The conversation in the car started out very friendly. Steven told Christopher that he was a corporal stationed at the 6th Battalion in Abak. He talked about his years of service since 2002 and mentioned his own 3 children. Christopher felt a connection with this man because they were both fathers working hard to provide for their families. They talked about the roads, the weather, and their homes. Christopher even felt more secure having an armed soldier in the car with him. He thought that no criminal would dare touch a car that had a soldier inside. This false sense of security made Christopher relax and enjoy the trip. He treated Steven like a friend and a brother. They drove for many miles, crossing the borders between states, while Steven secretly watched Christopher and planned how he would take the car. Every mile they traveled brought Christopher closer to a location where Steven felt he could finish his evil plan without being caught by anyone. As the 2 men continued their journey, the sun moved higher in the sky. It was around 1 p.m. when Christopher tried to call his wife, Arit, to tell her he was doing well. Arit was in church and did not hear her phone ring, so she missed the call. Christopher did not worry and kept driving toward his hometown. They reached a junction in Uruwa Ekpa, which was a very quiet area near the woods. Christopher was starting to feel tired from the long drive and suggested they stop to rest. He was still being very kind to Steven, even buying some pork meat for them to eat together as a snack. They stood by the car, eating and talking like regular travelers. He had no reason to be afraid because the man standing next to him was a soldier who had sworn to protect Nigerian citizens. He did not see the darkness in Steven's eyes or the way Steven was checking to see if anyone was watching them from the road. The betrayal happened in a split second when Christopher least expected it. While they were resting, Steven Eway suddenly pulled out a sharp dagger that he had hidden. Without saying a word or giving a reason, he attacked Christopher in the chest multiple times. Christopher was shocked and tried to defend himself, but he was no match for a trained soldier with a weapon. As Christopher fell to the ground, Steven did not stop. He took his AK-47 rifle and fired a shot into Christopher's head to ensure his life was ended. The man who had provided a free ride and food was now lying on the ground because of the greed of the person he helped. Steven did not feel any pity for the man who had just shared a meal with him. All he cared about was the grey Toyota Matrix and the money Christopher had in his pockets. This was the ultimate betrayal of trust. Before we continue with this heartbreaking story, I want to remind you to subscribe to Trem Crime Zone right now. You should subscribe to our channel because we tell these true stories to help you stay alert and keep your family safe. Our videos show you the real dangers that exist and teach you how to protect yourself from people who pretend to be good. By subscribing, you support our work in bringing justice to victims like Christopher and ensuring their stories are never forgotten. Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss an update on these important cases. Your safety is our priority, and we want you to be part of our community. After the life of Christopher was ended, Steven Eway began to act like a professional criminal. He grabbed Christopher's legs and dragged his remains deep into the bushes away from the roadside. He wanted to make sure that no one passing by would see the body. Then he went back to the car and searched through Christopher's things. He took the mobile phone, the wallet full of money, and the car keys. Steven climbed into the driver's seat of the grey Toyota Matrix and drove away, leaving Christopher alone in the dirt. He felt powerful and successful because he had stolen a car and escaped without anyone seeing him. He drove toward a different local government area called Ukanafon, planning to hide the car and eventually sell it for a lot of money. He thought that because he was a soldier, no one would ever suspect him of a thief or a killer.
Back in Port Harcourt, Arit was starting to feel very worried. When she finished her church service and saw the missed call from Christopher, she tried to call him back immediately. The phone rang, but nobody picked up. She waited a few hours and tried again, but this time the phone was switched off. Christopher was a man who always kept his phone on so his family could reach him. Arit stayed up all night, pacing the floor and praying for his safety. By Monday morning, May 24, she knew something was wrong. She went to Christopher's office and asked his colleagues if they had heard from him. When they said no, everyone realized that Christopher was missing. Arit begged the office workers to help her search, and they all got into their cars to drive the route to Akwa Ibom. They stopped at every police station and army post, showing Christopher's picture, but nobody had any information. While Arit was searching the roads, Christopher's sister, Auntie Mercy, was also looking for him in Eketabasi. She went to a busy junction and talked to some motorcycle riders. They told her that a man had been found in the bushes near the road and that his remains had been taken to a mortuary in Eketabasi. Auntie Mercy felt a cold fear in her chest and called Arit to come to the location. When the family arrived and saw the photo of the remains, their world fell apart. Arit cried out in pain because she knew it was her husband. The police were called to the scene and they began a serious investigation. They asked the family if Christopher had any way of being found. That is when they remembered that the grey Toyota Matrix had a hidden tracking device. This small piece of technology was about to become the most important evidence in the entire case. The police turned on the tracking system and waited for a signal. Suddenly, a red dot appeared on the map. The car was moving. The tracker led the police and Christopher's brave colleagues to a guest house in a place called Ukanafon. The police moved in quietly and surrounded the guest house. When they burst through the door of one of the rooms, they found Steven Eway. He was sitting there with Christopher's phone and the car keys. He was still wearing his full military uniform, which made the police even more angry. They found the AK-47 rifle and the bloody dagger used to attack Christopher. Steven tried to lie and say he didn't do anything, but he couldn't explain why he had the dead man's car and phone. He was arrested on the spot and taken to the police station in handcuffs, finally facing the consequences of his betrayal. The arrest of Steven Eway was a big victory for the police, but the investigation was just beginning. They needed to find out how a soldier could do such a terrible thing. They discovered that Steven had been living a double life for a long time. The AK-47 he used was an illegal gun he had stolen from a battlefield years ago and kept for his own use. He was also supposed to be on duty at the army base on the day he killed Christopher, but he had run away from his post. The Nigerian army was so ashamed of him that they held a military trial called a court-martial. They stripped him of his rank, took away his uniform, and dismissed him from the army. He was no longer a soldier. He was now just a regular criminal facing a judge. The evidence against him was so strong that there was no way he could escape the hand of justice. The trial of Steven Eway took place at the Akwa Ibom State High Court in Uyo. Justice Bassey Nkanang was the judge in charge of the case. During the trial, the prosecution showed all the evidence, including the tracking data and the weapons found with Steven. The motorcycle riders came to court to tell how they found Christopher's remains. Llied also stood before the judge and talked about the wonderful man her husband was and how much their daughters missed him. Steven Eway tried to ask for mercy, saying he had a wife and 3 children who needed him, but the judge was not moved by his words. Justice Nkanang said that Steven had used his position as a soldier to trick a kind citizen, and that made the crime even more disgusting. On September 26, 2025, the judge gave his final verdict. Steven Eway was sentenced to death by hanging for ending the life of Christopher Jimmy and for armed robbery. The sentencing brought a small sense of peace to Christopher's family, but it could not bring him back. Llied is now a widow at only 34 years old, and she has to work very hard to take care of her 2 daughters. The 8-year-old girl remembers her father's kindness, but the 1-year-old baby will only know him through pictures and stories. This is the true tragedy of crime. It leaves a hole in a family that can never be filled. Christopher's death reminded everyone in the community that they must be careful, even when someone looks like they can be trusted. The gray Toyota Matrix was eventually returned to the family, but every time they look at it, they remember the man they lost. Christopher Jimmy will always be remembered as a man of light who died because he tried to do a good deed for his country. The story of Steven Eway is a warning to all those who think they can hide behind a uniform to commit crimes. He had a good job and a family, but he threw it all away because of greed. He spent nearly 20 years in the army, only to end his career in shame and a death sentence. The Nigerian military and the police worked together to make sure he did not escape. This shows that the law can work when people stand up and speak the truth. Christopher's friends at work were also heroes because they did not stop searching until they found him. Their loyalty to their manager is a testament to the kind of man Christopher was during his life. Even in his death, Christopher helped catch a dangerous criminal because he was smart enough to put a tracker in his vehicle. We want to hear your thoughts on this very sad case. In the comment section below, tell us, do you think the judge was right to refuse mercy for Steven Eway because he was a soldier? Also, have you ever been in a situation where you felt unsure about helping a stranger? Share your stories and opinions with the Trem Crime Zone community so we can all learn from each other. Your comments help us grow and bring more attention to these important cases. Thank you for watching, and remember to always stay safe and look out for your loved ones. We will see you in the next true crime story. This story teaches us that kindness is a great virtue, but it must be practiced with wisdom. We live in a world where not everyone is who they appear to be. Always use security measures like car trackers and let your family know your location when you are traveling. Christopher's kindness was beautiful, but the betrayal he faced is a reminder to always be alert. May the soul of Christopher Jimmy rest in perfect peace, and may his family find the strength to move forward.